As the election campaign passes the halfway mark, it's crunch time for the major parties. There's a firm belief this will end in a hung parliament. So who are the new independents putting government seats at risk?
Watch out, ScoMo and Albo. It looks like you won't just be dealing with the likes of Cato, Wilco and Steger. A new breed of Indo looks set to wedge their way into our everyday vernacular. Independent candidates who could hold the balance of power in the next government.
It is a real moment, and this is a movement.
I think we have a huge opportunity to make history.
I think we've got a really good chance.
Latest polls show support for the major parties is underwhelming, and that's pointing to a hung parliament come election night.
I think we are seeing something really exciting in our democracy, and that is communities all over Australia rising up and deciding that we actually can do better than this.
So, who are the new breed of independents, and what would it take for either major party to secure their crucial support to form government? First, let's swing across to Western Australia, which could shape this election outcome.
How did you go last week with the democracy thing?
Kate Chaney could well rock the mining state and claim the blue ribbon seat of Curtin.
We are seeing more of the same with this petty point scoring.
Chaney's granddad Fred was a Menzies government minister, and her uncle Fred Jr. a former Fraser government minister. But the colour teal is coursing through this lawyer's veins, backed by the deep pockets of Simon Holmes à Court's Climate 200 group.
Neither party is doing enough on climate, and this is reflected in global surveys that continuously place Australia at the bottom of the pile.
Curtin is currently held by Celia Hammond with a margin of almost 14%, but the Greens are encouraging their supporters to preference Chaney, sending a clear message that climate action is a priority.
We need to be embracing the opportunities that decarbonisation presents so that we're creating the jobs of the future instead of really holding on to the jobs of the past.
The assault on once Liberal safe seats continues in Melbourne, where former ABC journalist Zoe Daniel is taking on incumbent Tim Wilson for the seat of Goldstein.
I think those who are backing me know that an independent and perhaps a crop of sensible independents can change something for the better in this country, and that's why we have so much amazing momentum.
Daniel's also backed by the Climate 200 group, although she's been forced to hose down a couple of recent fires, including previous comments over Israel's treatment of Palestinians.
There's a tension there in the political arena that's very different to anything else that I've experienced.
In Sydney, a two-pronged independent attack on Liberal seats with Kylie Tink looking to dislodge Trent Zimmerman in North Sydney, while Allegra Spender's stance on climate action could see Dave Sharma punted from the prized seat of Wentworth.
Dave Sharma's had 3 years, but we've got Tony Abbott's climate targets for 2030. We don't have a federal ICAC, which is an issue it's raised constantly with me in the community.
The seat's been in Liberal hands since 1901, bar 7 months, and Sharma holds it on a wafer-thin 1.3% margin.
I think he's just not having influence in his party. It's Barnaby Joyce and Matt Canavan. They're the ones who have driven the government's climate policy. The integrity policy. It's missing in action.
The strong independent push in Liberal metro areas means we could emerge with a larger crossbench after election night. And that could see a repeat of the 17-day bargaining that occurred between the Independents and Greens with Julia Gillard and Tony Abbott in 2010.
I hadn't even finished my first beer before those party officials from both sides were above 8 o'clock on election night, ringing in to say, mate, let's have a chat.
Former independent Rob Oakeshott was in the thick of it in 2010. He had the nation on edge during a 17-minute speech before finally backing Julia Gillard and Labor into a minority government.
I'm really confident that the current batch are quality candidates and hopefully quality MPs.
allegations of connections to
South Australian
drug
Independent
trafficking.
MP Rebecca Sharkey's indicated she'll be offering the Morrison government the first opportunity to form government. But the independents we spoke to are playing their cards close to their chest.
I would need to see some strong commitments on climate action and also on returning integrity to Parliament in order to provide my support for a minority government.
There's a lot of policy uncertainty even with both parties, but I'm really going to leave it till, the negotiating table if it comes to that, because I think that both parties will move significantly if it comes to an opportunity to form government.
Those who vote for me will know that I'm standing on a platform of climate integrity, prosperity and equality, and therefore the leaders of both major parties should know that too. If it comes down to a negotiation, it will be around what they can deliver on those policy areas.
Stalwart Queensland Independent Bob Catter offers this tip for any new arrival.
I drew up a list with Tony Abbott, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Tony, but I don't think he had any intention of delivering on any of those promises. I think Scott Morrison did intend, but he couldn't, right? So what's the use of you saying, you give me the money when you can't deliver anything? So this time, I'd put a date on it.
While Tasmania's Andrew Wilkie says more independent faces can only be a positive.
There's got to be a real chance of a power-sharing parliament, and I'll call it a power-sharing parliament because that's actually what it is. No one gets hung. Fortunately, it's a case of the government of the day has to work cooperatively with the crossbench, and history shows you get a better parliament out of it.